right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Thanks for coming in here. I really appreciate you guys joining me to talk about travel. It's like outside of marketing, it's probably one of my favorite topics to talk about. So today I'm gonna be talking about the 80-20 to travel hacking, pretty much how you can travel for free with just putting in the least amount of effort. And that's gonna be kind of the primary goal of this, is talking about the simplistic way to go. So we're all busy. We don't wanna spend hours and hours digging into this stuff. So I've kind of isolated the things that I've learned over the years that give me the biggest rewards with the least amount of effort. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Mike Swigunski, and I love traveling. So just to tell you guys a little bit more about me, there's a few fresh faces here, people that I haven't interacted with super closely. I'm the senior marketing strategist for Empire Flippers. I've been with the company for about 3.5 years now. Started with Greg, and now we've grown into a huge company, which is awesome to see the company grow so fast and people from all over the place. It's been a really exciting time, a really fascinating 3.5 years. So in addition to that, I've also a published author. I released a book at the end of last year. And I've been traveling for around 10 years now, which is kind of crazy to think back. And throughout that 10 years, my journey's taken me to over 75 countries. And I have no plans to really slow down. Like, I've got a lot of travel plans for next year. And one of the great things about Empire Flippers is, you guys all know, is we're able to work remotely from pretty much anywhere. And it's a great work-life balance. I got started with credit cards when I was 18 years old. I just went into the bank to open up a debit card. And they're like, hey, you can get this debit card thing that's also like has a credit card attached to it. And if you like go over your spending limits on your checking account, it charges your credit card account. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, then I started kind of like building credit from an early age. And that's kind of be one of the fastest ways you guys can earn travel points and travel for free. But I'm also going to talk a little bit more in depth about other travel tips that I picked up over the years. So since I started when I was 18, I've accumulated over 1.5 million miles. So the majority of my flights that you see, I would say about 90% of them are free because I get really good value on flights and I'm able to use those miles. And I kind of just have a system where, like, when I start dwindling down miles, I open up a new card and then it just gets back up. And it's just a process that you can implement. And over time, it becomes something that you can just do all of your travel for free. So to date, I have 15 credit cards, an 815 credit score, and $0 in debt. So most people get scared of credit cards because they're like, all right, I'm going to go into debt. I'm going to just like be living credit card to credit card. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategies on how you can open up credit cards and kind of start off slowly and then progress over time. So I'm curious, who here has a credit card? Raise your hand. Keep your hand up. How many people have at least 5 credit cards? 5? How many people have 10? How many people have 15? So I wasn't joking. Boom. So over the years, I have accumulated 15 credit cards. I wasn't joking. Like,
There's like the children, like you're wrong.
yeah, like here's my Amex Platinum. This gets me into like the Centurion Lounge, and just every card kind of has its own benefit. And so you're probably thinking, like, this guy's absolutely insane. Like, how is he not, living in mass amounts of debt? But it is kind of like one of those things where it started off as a hobby, and now it's kind of bordering obsession / it's just a very fun hobby that lets me travel for free. So one of the things I want to talk about today is how you can build up over time that. I've been doing this for 12 years, so if you kind of do the math, it's around a credit card every year, and it's gotten me to where I am now. And no, I don't need an intervention yet. And I know for all my Sunny fans out there, like Pepe Sylvia, like, it just looks like super complicated, like, it's like, but anyways, it does look from the surface to be complicated. It's really fairly easy. And I would say just try to do 1 to 2 credit cards a year. And I'm going to kind of go through my systems on how I open credit cards, but also maximize points over time. And that's like the number one thing I want you guys to get out of this presentation is that the credit card hacking and just travel hacking in general is fairly easy to do. And I'm going to highlight some of the things that are giving you the most benefits from the least amount of effort. So here's the agenda for the presentation. I'm going to give a brief overview about the 80-20 rule. It's a fairly common rule used in almost all areas. Like the guy who invented it, he initially was planting peas in his garden. He's like 20% of the peas he planted produced 80% of the results. And then I'll go over some like the credit card myths and some of the benefits, because I think a lot of people have a negative perception of credit cards. And I just want to talk about why, if you're not using a credit card, I just absolutely think you're crazy. There's so many more benefits out there for it. Even if you just have one credit card to start off, it really makes sense. And I'll kind of talk about my travel structure and kind of how you can implement what you think would work best for you. And then lastly, I'll go through some of the best travel resources. There's a lot of websites that are free resources I use. No affiliate links, I promise. And then at the end, I'll have a Q&A. So like I mentioned, the 80-20 principle is you put in 20% of the effort, save a bunch of time, and then you get 80% of the results. So I'll go through some of those things where you guys can easily put in that 20% of the effort and then just reap the rewards. So a lot of the stuff that I read online, I'm like, these guys are crazy. Like if you're on the churning Reddit, subreddit and stuff, it's like, okay, you're spending so much time doing this, but like literally there's just a really small amount of things you need to do to get the most results. And that's kind of been my strategy. So here's a nice little diagram that showcases what I kind of take to the process I take and the process you can also implement. So the first step is just kind of doing some initial research around credit cards and figuring out, okay, what's my credit score? Finding that out first is a free thing to do. If you're not monitoring your credit, like last year or a few years ago, we had the Equifax leak. You need to be monitoring this stuff because people could be opening up credits in your name and you have no clue because you're not aware of your credit score. You're not monitoring it. So even if you're not going to go as crazy as me, it's something you want to do. So once you research your credit score, then you can kind of backtrack. Then you can start, okay, I've got a 650, a 750, an 800. You can figure out that, and then you can look at what cards make sense for you. But also during this research stage, it's really important to look at your natural spending habits over a 3-month period, a 6-month period, and then kind of work backwards because you want to find a credit card that you're going to naturally spend and easily hit those sign-up bonuses. So once you've spent usually it's $3,000 or $4,000 within a 3-month period, once you get that sign-up bonus, you want to make sure you maximize those points. I see people who just get the cash back or like buy gift cards, and I'm just like nodding my head because they're getting like less than a cent to that point. Whereas like I have a few examples where I've gotten, 4 or 5 cents per point. And so I'm getting 5 times more out of that point than people who are just getting, some type of gift card or something. The next step is downgrading. And this is after you've opened up a credit card, investigating, okay, maybe 6 months, 8 months later, deciding whether you should keep that card or downgrade it to a card that doesn't have a fee. So most credit cards have, a fee that's from anywhere from $100 all the way up to $500. And you need to decide, do a cost analysis and see if that card's actually worth staying open or closing it down. And they have these things called retention offers. So what you do is you just call up to the credit card. You're like, hey, I want to cancel my credit card. They're like, oh no, we want to keep you. So they'll give you an offer. And they're like, okay, so here's the offer for another 10,000 points if you spend $500 over the next few months. Then you can decide if you want to keep it open or just downgrade, not close out your card. And I want to differentiate that because closing out your cards will actually hurt your credit score. The last step is you can just continually repeat this process of opening cards, downgrading them to like a no-fee card where you're getting all the benefits. And once you've exhausted those benefits, you just downgrade so you have none of the risk. So I wanted to talk about my favorite travel card. This is my daily driver. This is the card that I'm using for about 95% of my purchases. It does cost $450 a year, but it's one of the best travel cards out there because it has so many good benefits and it really does a great job of outweighing any of the other cards. So one of the best things is that you get a 50% bonus for booking flights or any type of travel through their system. The system to redeem miles is really easy to use. They have a really great interface, and that's why it's become so popular. So the Chase Sapphire Reserve has a welcome bonus of 50,000 points. So once you've opened up that card and you've met the spending threshold, then you're going to get 50,000 points, which is around $1,000 in value. And that's depending on what type of valuation you use it for. Like I mentioned before, if you use it for gift cards or something, it's going to be worth a lot less, probably $200, $300 worth of value. But if you use it on flights, you're going to get 2 cents per point. Lastly, like I mentioned, you do have to spend $4,000 to meet that bonus. So you're probably thinking like, I spend $4,000 to get $1,000. Like that math is just like, doesn't make sense. But the method is though, you're just using this credit card for your natural spending. So during that research stage, if you figured out, okay, I can spend $1,500, easily put my rent on it, put my Netflix, my phone bill, my gym membership, going out to lunch and dinners with my friends and getting the points. You know, that's a common tactic. It's just, you know, you put your credit card in, you're out to lunch with 5 or 6 people, and then they just pay you back with cash. The idea here is to use your natural spending to meet that sign-up bonus. So that way you're just getting pure profit. And so for this one, it's $4,000 within a 3-month period. So around $1,300 per month. So once you've opened up this card, a few of the other benefits are, it does cost $450 a year, but you get that back really easily, even without the initial sign-up bonus. And that's why I keep this card and use it for my daily driver, is because you get a $300 travel bonus. And one of the good things about this card is a lot of other cards make it complicated to get this redemption bonus. You have to buy like $50 incremental gift cards or something on an airline. But here it's just automatically applied. You book a hotel, an Airbnb, an Uber, or any type of flight, it just automatically redeems it in your account. So you get the $300, and that knocks down that yearly fee, you know, to $150. One of the other good things about this card is it comes with a priority pass. And I know a few people are familiar with that, but basically this is a card that gets you into thousands of lounges worldwide. So if you have a long layover, or if you're just stuck in a city for a while, your flight gets canceled or something, these lounges are pretty nice. They vary city to city, but they usually have good Wi-Fi, a way better atmosphere than anywhere in the airport. They have free drinks, free food. Some of them even have free massages. So it is a really nice perk. But it also, in addition to this, it comes with a credit for global entry and TSA PreCheck, which at first I was like, oh, I don't fly back to the US like maybe once a year, twice a year. But I've been using it lately because I fly through Miami a lot, and it's just a game changer. Like, you don't have to take off your shoes for TSA PreCheck. The lines are so much faster. And then for global entry, I've never flown through Miami and had to wait. I just go to the front of the line, and usually you're cutting in front of like 500-600 people sometimes. So it can save like hours on your transfer. And then the last few perks are, a lot of us are living overseas, so this credit card doesn't have any foreign transaction fees. Whenever you're making a purchase in Thailand, you don't get charged anything extra for that. And then lastly, a few other things are 3 times on travel. So if you're booking a flight and your flight's $100, you're gonna get 300 points for that. And same with the other protection things, like there's an extended warranty. So if you buy a MacBook Pro or an iPhone, it actually adds an extra year on that. And so that's why using a credit card to make any electronical purchase makes a lot of sense, because you're getting a whole extra year of coverage. And then lastly is just protection. I know I've had a few people, like a gym membership, who just won't close, they won't close my account, so they just keep charging me. With a debit card, you're just out of luck. Like, there's nothing you can do. But with a credit card, I can charge back that fee and my bank will dispute it. And basically I won't have to pay that. So I've mentioned this thing a bit, a credit score, like what is it? It is kind of complicated. I don't think most people are that familiar with it. So this is a screenshot from today. And as you can see here, I had a bit of a dip. And this is when I opened the new Apple Card. So every time you open a credit card, they're going to do a hard inquiry on your account. So it'll take an eventual dip, but over time it'll jump back up. And so this is a FICO score. It's out of 850. And it's something I'm very proud of.
That's super high, sorry.
It is. And it's going to take time for you guys to get there, because like I mentioned, my first credit card was when I was 18, I've had no debt. I haven't had any expenses on my, any rollover expenses on the credit card. And I've been building that credit up over years. And that's kind of why I want to talk about credit scores and why they're important, what they are, and kind of how you can utilize them. So one of the main things is, what is a credit score? It's basically just a number that's correlated to you on your likelihood to pay that money back or to pay that credit back. So it's an important thing to build because it's linked to getting more credit cards, to getting loans, to getting mortgages, and some employers even do background checks or do credit checks on you. So if you have a job that has some security job or anything that's in the financial industry, they'll actually do a credit check on you. And if you don't have a good credit score, there's a good likelihood they won't hire you because you're at risk or that you're not trustworthy to that financial institution. There's a few factors that really impact your credit score. One of them is your credit utilization. So example of that is, let's say you open up a credit card, you have $5,000 of credit available to you, but every month you're spending $5,000. That's really going to impact your credit score because you're using 100% of that credit available to you. And that's why opening up multiple credit cards is actually building credit, because if you're adding another $5,000 credit card, you're doubling your credit that's available to you. And that 100% utilization is going to drop to 50% just by opening another credit card. So when you open cards, you take an initial hit, but over time it's going to build up to a higher score. Some of the other impacts are the age of your account, so how long you've had them open, but it's an actual average age. So if you opened a card like 10 years ago, but you just opened another one recently, it'll take the average of those two. So that's why it's good to continually build this over time. And you don't need to get 15 credit cards. I'm not saying that anybody needs to do that, but it's something you can work towards. And opening up just a few credit cards a year and keeping the natural spend is going to build credit and also get you some free travel. So lastly, if you're not able to open up credit cards, let's say you're just getting started, you haven't built any credit, you don't have anybody who's willing to make you an authorized user or co-sign for you, there's these things called a secured credit card. And basically this is for people who want to get in and start building credit, but they don't have any way of getting started. So basically this gives you a way to do that by giving the bank or the credit card institution an upfront amount. So for example, you would give the bank $5,000 and then you would have a credit limit of $5,000. And that way you can't really overspend and go into debt. So it's a good thing if you're looking to get started. So here's the Mythbusters. Swig dancing. So there's a ton of myths around credit cards, and I'm just gonna bust them right here. So too many credit cards hurt your score. I think I kind of touched on that with having 15 credit cards and having an 815 score. It doesn't hurt your score if you're able to do it over time and build it up in a nice way without being risky, without keeping a balance on your credit over time.
Mine got better, 60, 70 points better over a couple of years.
Right. So it is just time. The other myth is you need to close a card before you open one, which is one of the worst things you can do, because if you close down your credit card with a $20,000 credit limit, it's going to really affect your utilization score and impact your credit score. And then credit cards are just dangerous. I think people just think about it as a way, they're like, oh, I'm going to get a credit card, I'm just going to go buy a Ferrari or something. I don't know. For me, I just have a mindset where it's with credit cards, I just treat it like cash, and that's it. Once you have that mindset, it's easy. You just don't spend more than you have.
So is it true if you're understanding that carrying over a balance almost completely negates the benefit of points? So if you're carrying a $10,000 balance every month, then the points aren't worth it.
Yeah, I think if you're doing it on a long-term basis, it's terrible. But if you're just if you're going through a tough time and it's going to be a temporary, for a month or something, that's one of the big perks of credit cards. They can give you that access to get through that rough patch. I would say don't do that on a long-term basis, maybe a month, but other than that, you don't want to carry a balance or else it will impact your score.
Yeah, I think that's huge, just paying off your balance every month.
They're betting that you won't, and that's why they give all these benefits.
Exactly
So
right.
be better than the people that don't pay their cards and pay your cards, and you get all the benefits without the risk.
That's why they're
You keep
gonna
your
give
credit
it to
cards
you.
at zero every month?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll even pay off my credit card twice a month. I have auto pay on. So if I do forget or something, it just syncs up to my checking account and then automatically pays it off every month.
My dad's always said to keep like a small bit of amount on it. So he's gotten this to zero, and then they're like, "Oh, we're shutting down your account now. It's at zero." And so you almost keep like $50 on it.
I pay it off every month, but I have the minimum set to get paid just so I don't get a late payment, just because I don't want the crazy amount going on my account. But at least the minimum will be paid, and then I just pay it off every month anyway.
Right.
Do you do that through your credit card or through your bank?
So they sync up to each other. So like if you have a checking account in another bank, like I check with Charles Schwab, and then that'll sync up to any other credit card. And you just connect the bank accounts, set on automatic payments, and then you can choose the minimum amount. I just pay the statement balance every month automatically. But sometimes if I do have a high month where I'm spending a lot, I'll just pay that off immediately once it's hit, because that way it lowers my credit utilization score.
Yeah.
And how do you track? Do you use an app or anything that keeps everything in order, like Mint or?
Yeah, Credit Karma is the best one for that. I'll touch on that in a bit.
Swig, is there a sweet spot of total use, like overall utilization? Like, I mean, you have 15 cards, but you use most of your spending on Chase.
Right.
The lower the better.
Credit
Do you
Karma
want
like
to get 0% on all of them except your Chase card, or do you?
It doesn't really matter if you're using like $500 and on the other one. It's the percentage out of so out of these 15 credit cards, let's just say $100,000 in credit. So you want to keep, it doesn't matter which card you're using as long as it's as low as
Close
possible.
to zero as possible. He doesn't want to carry balance even on Chase. In fact, he'll charge it 2 days later, pay it off.
Yeah.
It's just to have it go through and then be paid off right away.
And so you want to stay at 0% as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
As much as you can.
I'd say like under 5% is really good. That's kind of like a milestone. I know credit cards, it's not easy to keep a 0% balance, but it's something to strive for. The lower, the better.
All right, yeah, so credit-wise, I look at that a lot, but it seems to work out. Capital One
Has their own like FICO score and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of the apps now, like a lot of the credit card companies have their own built-in like FICO report, and it's good to monitor that. But I found that Credit Karma is way better because you get alerts and stuff. But I'll go a little bit more in depth on that. So for people who aren't really interested in credit cards, this is the portion for you. I want to talk about loyalty and status. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, you fly so much, you must be like a diamond member or like the highest class on every airline. But because I'm using points, I don't actually have any status on any airlines. And I would say that the airline status is good if you can achieve it. But honestly, it's best to just take the lowest rate most of the times. They keep diminishing the programs for airlines. So I'm not a huge proponent of it. If you can make it work, it's up to you, but I think it's pretty difficult to do. The gold level, like on most of them, the first tier isn't that great. So getting up to the top tiers is mostly reserved for business travelers who are just flying back and forth every weekend.
Or if you're flying out of the major hub for that main carrier all the time.
Right.
Yeah, that's the tough thing is like a lot of us are overseas, so it's just like, you're taking a discount airline here and a discount airline there. I do think, however, it is good to sign up for their loyalty program because it's free. Like, why not? Like, why not try to meet those points? If you are going to be flying a lot, even if it's next year, you can still get those points. I think most airlines are within like 90 days. If you've flown with them, you can still backdate those and try to get those points. So I do recommend signing up for hotel and airline loyalty programs, especially all the ones that are free. The reason is, one, it's just easier to keep track of your stuff. It's easier to check in. You don't have to enter all your information a million times. And you are more likely to get upgrades if you do actually have an account because they see, this person flies a bit. It is very rare to get those, but you have a better chance of that if you are part of the loyalty program. And a lot of the loyalty programs today, they have extra benefits like I think Hilton and Marriott, you get free Wi-Fi if you book directly through them and you're part of their loyalty program.
If you work away from the hotels, I'd argue the hotel ones don't work that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, the hotel ones are good, but I think the best thing is you can get the loyalty status with credit cards. And then you're already at a really good point where you can just get like at Hilton, I have diamond status through one of my credit cards and you get lounge access, you get automatic upgrades, and there's a bunch of other perks as well.
So have you noticed any blackout periods at all when you try to
Use points.
Yeah, I honestly the frequent flyer miles, the hotels, they're all getting worse. So that's why I've talked to a few people, they've been like saving up for years. And I'm like, it's just your redemptions are going to get worse every year. So like try to maximize it. Don't just like use it to some trip where it's not a good valuation. So you want to try to maximize it, but I would say like, don't just try to save up like some crazy amount of miles for 10 years. If you do have them now, I would say it's going to be better value now.
That's true for all these programs. So like, don't save them up. Like, try to use them whenever you have an opportunity. Have you ever seen it actually get better ever?
No.
Yeah.
It's never gotten better. It's just every year it gets worse. So
You mentioned you're going to talk about tools later on.
Yeah.
But so in their tools, do you have something or an app that you recommend that keeps tabs on all the loyalty programs you're in?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So the next thing is maximizing miles. So I just wanted to give a quick example about that. I recently flew to the United States and from Medellin to North Carolina, Charlotte. And I was looking up flights. I was like, man, these flights are crazy expensive. Everything's like 2 or 3 legs, around $1,500. I'm like, all right, I did some searching in Google Flights, did some monitoring over a few weeks. I normally start looking at flights 2 to 3 months beforehand because that's what I found is the best pricing. And so what I'll do, my workflow is look on Google Flights, set a few dates, set a few alerts on email. So once that pricing does drop, I do get an email alert. And I'm not always going to like, if I see a 50% reduction, I'm not always going to buy that right away with cash. What I'll do is I'll go and check my points and see if that reduction is happening with points. So there's a few ways because the flights drop so much, you're going to get a way better valuation with points than even paying cash. So for this example, it was $1,500 or $1,500 for a normal flight with one stop in Miami. But I was able to pick it up for 3,500 American miles, and that was round trip. So this was a valuation that should have gotten me 1.4 cents per mile. That's what AA points are valued at. But I was able to get 4.4 cents per mile on that trip, which is huge, 4 times more value for your points. And so that's why it's really important to kind of have that workflow where you're setting up email alerts on Google Flights or whatever booking platform you like to use. I usually set up on alerts on Google Flights, and then if I'm going to book with the airline, I'll always book direct because there's so many times there's cancellations on like these third-party systems. You're saving like, I don't know, $50 to $100, but it's just not worth it in the long haul because a lot of times if they're canceled, they won't give you, they're just really strict as the airlines will just automatically rebook you easily. The next thing is finding cheap flights. There's a few really simple tactics because you don't want to spend hours or even days looking for cheap flights. So there's a few ways to just kind of use the best practices. And one of them is using multi-city flights. So that's where I've done this a lot where I fly through a big hub like London, and for the same amount of money or points, I can stay in London for like a week and then fly out the next day or fly out, 5 days later and have like a long layover in London. And this kind of varies per city, but it's a really cool way to like book on one ticket, but just extend your layover. I've done it in Fiji. I've done it in China. I've done it a lot of ways. And so it's the same price of the booking, but you actually get to see the city a bit. So you're getting a lot of value there. And the other thing is to add at least 3 days in your search criteria. So if you are flexible on dates, try to just set up the monthly view and check like 3 days before, 3 days after the dates that you want to go. And I would set up alerts for all those dates and see if the price does drop. And then lastly or the third step is the nearby airports. So I fly through Miami a lot, but there's Fort Lauderdale, which just 35, 40 minutes from Miami's airport. So a lot of times I'll check flights from Medellin to Fort Lauderdale or Medellin to Miami and see which one is better value. So you could potentially fly into Fort Lauderdale, take a 30-minute taxi or Uber to Miami, and then fly international from there. And you can get a lot of savings that way. And then number 4, the flight service. These are basically companies where you pay, some of them are free, some of them you pay a premium service, like Scotch Cheap Flights. Alex's wife, Tasha, works for them. They're a great service. I'm friends with one of the co-founders. They do have really good quality. Basically, you set your hub. So let's say you're based in, Miami. You would set Miami as your hub. And then anytime there's a big flight discount, over 50%, they'll send you an email. It's like, okay, Miami to London for $200. And they'll give you usually like a 2 to 3 month period where you can just buy those flights. A lot of those really good deals, though, they only last for maybe a day or two. sometimes just hours. And then, like I mentioned a few times, to set up flight alerts, really easy to do. You just do your search on Google Flights, which is my favorite place to look for flights, put in your email, and then anytime that price drops, it'll send you an alert. So this has been a big topic, I guess, is my favorite free travel resources. These are the ones that I use all the time. They're all really good. Credit Karma, this is what I use to monitor my credit. So if anybody like opens up a credit card in my name, I get an email alert. And you can actually log in. It's a free service to use. It doesn't do anything to your credit. It just showcases all your credit cards. Even I'm an authorized user on a few cards, like with Empire Flippers, I can see our current balance through there. And it showcases, okay, this balance is keeping at this point, they have $3,000 on it, and where is that going to? And it's a great way to see if people have opened up a credit card in your name, especially now that pretty much half of America's social security number is just out in the open. So it is a good thing to monitor and to keep those alerts on. But also it showcases your credit score. And it also gives recommendations like they had mentioned earlier about the high impacts for certain things that are affecting your credit score. So I definitely recommend signing up for all of these. They're all free and they're all really good to use. The next one is the Points Guy, one of my favorite blogs. It was started by a guy named Brian Kelly. He recently, or a few years back, sold part of it to another, I don't know, I think some big PE firm or something, but now he's still semi-involved. But regardless...
Did you ever see how much? Did you ever see anything about that?
I don't think it was public. I haven't seen anything about it. Yeah. I think probably seven figures. So he's still involved in the company. But what's good is like after the sale, I think he kind of kept his foot in there to keep the quality there. So the blog quality is really good. The stuff that they're writing about is really in depth. And pretty much if you search anything around credit cards, they're going to be in the number one spot. So sign up for their email. It's really good. The next one's Award Wallet. I think this is what you had mentioned, Jimmy. Basically, it's a platform where you can sync up all your loyalty accounts and you can just see a running balance of it. Similar to Mint. I don't know if you guys use Mint, but it's similar structure for all your bank accounts and credit cards. So both of those are good things to use. So Award Wallet and Mint.com. And then the last one is my favorite. It's TripIt. If you guys aren't using this right now, just download the app, sync up your email, and it does the rest for you. So if you book a flight, you get a confirmation to your email, and it just has all that flight details. And I don't know about you guys, but like I hate digging through my email to try and find like, oh, here's my flight information, because sometimes the keywords for the city don't show it. But the good thing about TripIt is it automatically syncs your email and then imports it to TripIt, and it just showcases it in a chronological order. So that way you can just open your TripIt, you can see all your flight details. I've even used the pro version. It's probably not worth it unless you're, I don't know, really wanting like live flight alerts. So if your flight gets changed or something, it'll give you alerts.
It also plays with Google Calendar, so it'll put all the flight information in Google Calendar.
Right. It automatically does that as well. So like you just log into your calendar and you see your flights coming up. It's really worth doing. The free version is so good that I don't think many people use the premium version. I tried it a month for it. They have a free trial. So give it a shot and see if you like it.
Hotels as well, not just flights.
But you should have a Black Friday deal of like 50% off, so
Right.
it's coming up.
Well, the Award Wallet has this week. They have third parties you work with, and they can actually request them to book the flights through you, and you give them access to view your Award Wallet balances, but they can view your balances and book flights for you through that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So just a few last travel tips. These aren't really anything mind-blowing, but it's just kind of basic things that I see a lot of people that they aren't doing. So the first one is traveling light. I don't know how many suitcases or bags you guys have, but I just have one carry-on bag. I've been living out of it for 2 years, and you're probably like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like it literally is just a 35-liter backpack. And once I like kind of transitioned, I started off carrying around big suitcases. I even had a big travel backpack before, but this is just like a backpack this big. I'm able to fit 3 pairs of shoes in it. Like I have a pair of jeans, a pair of shorts, and all the other essentials I need. Like I'm still able to go out to nice places and like dress for almost any occasion, go to the gym and stuff like that. So for me, the biggest thing is that it's just simplistic. Like I don't have to choose, 20 things to wear each day. And when I did have a lot of suitcases and stuff, I ended up wearing the same like 2 things anyways. It's just like all that other stuff was there for like nothing, just carrying it around. But it also saves a ton of time. I've done a bit of like napkin math. So, if you take 30 flights a year, you're spending at least an hour standing in line to check your bag and then waiting in line afterwards to pick it up. So it's around an hour each flight. So saving over a day every year by not having that. So I check in online, have the mobile boarding pass, go straight to security. Most of security, like if it's in the US, I'm able to go through TSA PreCheck and go straight to the lounge. Whereas you don't have to have any of that headache of waiting in line. And then the biggest thing is you can have the potential to lose your luggage. It just happened to my dad recently in Jordan where he lost his luggage. He had medication in there. It was just a huge nightmare. I was like, I've never lost my bag now because I just always have it with me. So it is essential to at least keep those valuables in your carry-on if you are going to check a bag. But a lot of airlines, they allow you to bring a backpack and like a personal item. So if you're not ready to transition to just one backpack, that's an option for you as well. So the second thing is never put all your eggs in one basket. I have this really thin travel wallet, and that's what I carry around on a day-to-day basis. It has cash, 1 credit card, and a photo ID that I don't care if I lose it. So if I do get pickpocketed, if I do get robbed, which has never happened to me, thank God.
You did put the screw band-aids, right?
Yeah.
What's your second eyes? Yeah.
In one basic. So it's just one of those things, like, don't have all your stuff. Like, I never have all that amount of credit cards. I don't have a huge amount of cash with me. I usually have it locked up in the safe or just somewhere else where you're kind of like dividing your stuff. So if you do get, your wallet stolen or lost, that way you don't have to go through the process of closing down all your credit cards, trying to get money wired to you. And it happens. Like, it's a very common thing. So trying to divide that up so you at least have 2 different areas of keeping your money together is very important.
The toughest thing with that too is when you need to get your credit cards back, they're only going to mail them to the address that you have registered.
That's why it's good to have one in safe so that you have it and you still have access.
I've been through that the hard way, and I lost my wallet and I had everything in there.
Really? I think Chase will mail internationally. They've expedited stuff.
Well, so I think I was going back to my parents' house, but now I did exactly what you do. So I have all my cards in my case and I just have cash.
Right.
Chase will, and they're super helpful if you like.
They've done expedited service where they basically FedEx it to you the next day.
Which is pretty awesome.
And then the last few ones is to have some emergency cash. I know there's a lot of talk about credit cards, but cash is king. I have a funny story where I was like in Tokyo. I was like transferring because they have all these different types of trains. So they have one train that's privately owned, another train that has another ticket. And I just run out of cash. And they have another weird ATM thing where none of the ATMs work. You have to go to a 7-Eleven and use the international ATM. And there was none like at this train stop. So I was just in limbo trying to transfer. And all I needed was like a few bucks to get a ticket. And luckily I had cash in another currency. I was able to transfer that cash and buy a ticket with no problem. So always have some cash with you. I say like $200 to $300 in cash, but it's up to you guys. And then lastly, back your stuff up. If it's your passport, your credit cards, you should have a photo of your front of your credit card and the back of your credit card. So that way, if you do lose your wallet or if it gets stolen, you're able to have that number to call and give them the credit card number. What I do is I keep a secure note, or you can put it in LastPass. You can make a secure note there and add the information and just make sure that it is secure. You have a copy of your passport, a copy of your photo IDs, a copy of the front and back of your credit cards, and just keep that stuff. It's really important. If you do lose your passport, it makes things a lot easier if you do have a copy of it. And it's just something that's a good practice to have. So lastly, I'm going to open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Another question, when you're talking about using the credit card on rent, like, I never thought about using it on Airbnb. It makes sense. I always think of it in terms of like Facebook ad dudes like spending shit on money. But do you know if you can pay your mortgage on a credit card, like the one with like a Chase card or whatever?
You might be able to. I don't have a mortgage, so I have no idea. But it's worth asking, right? Like if there's no huge fee on it, I assume if they don't do it directly, there might be a third party that somehow allows you to do it. But I assume there's a possibility.
So sometimes if they charge you a fee, they should be 3%. It's probably not worth it because whatever
3%.
reward you get out of it is going to be worth it. But no fee, it's definitely worth it. And the travel stuff, for sure, you might be getting 3, even 4 or 5 points to the dollar on spin. It's sweet, depending on your card.
Right.
Are those points, are there blackout areas for the points that you use for your Chase card?
So Chase's system works where it's like based on a dollar amount. So if you're booking flights or a hotel, it'll basically just take that dollar amount because they're using Expedia's API. And so pretty much whatever the amount is on Expedia, it's going to translate to Chase. And then you're just paying a percentage of that with your points.
Oh, nice.
What's the best Vietnamese credit card?
Sorry?
What's the best Vietnamese credit card?
The VietJet one.
Yeah.
The airline branded one.
You get a Vietjet foil member?
I'm bronze member.
Good foil?
Just to give you an idea, like I'm sure from like US to Asia in business class will run you somewhere around, and this is one person round trip, around 120 to 180,000 points, which is 2 to 3 credit card sign up bonuses only, right? So that can be a really, really sweet deal. Particularly if you're trying like 4% redemption, you can get like 10 cents on a dollar for like business or first.
Yeah, and that's just on a normal rate. There are some like big fluctuations, and then there's sometimes when you can transfer points over to an airline, and they have special things like if you transfer these points over here, you'll get a 30% increase on your points, and then you can redeem it at a good rate.
That's
Yeah, that's when it gets really complicated. That's kind of why I didn't touch on it.
You can pay someone to do that though.
Yeah, that's where the transfer bonuses and stuff, it does take a lot more time, and that's kind of why this presentation was geared towards here's the low-hanging fruits that you can do without having to spend all this time like, okay, because a lot of these bonuses are only temporary, so you constantly have to be monitoring it.
Do miles expire pretty quick, or?
Some airlines do, yeah. Some airlines do have miles, but there's easy ways like you can buy, I think before I bought a song through iTunes and it was through their platform, and you got 1 mile out of that, and that just added another year onto the miles.
Usually if you keep the card open, they'll keep the points, but there's some like minimum spends. You buy one thing a year, silly, it'll be interesting.
So even with Chase, like if you're wanting to downgrade a card, you can just transfer those points over to your other card and stuff. So
A lot of times if you call them with their annual fee, they'll waive the fee. I'd say more than half the time they just waive the fee completely for me. Sometimes they'll give you a point bonus, but you have to pay the fee particularly for the good cards.
Right.
Like
Chase is pretty stringent on the retention bonuses, but it's worth asking. There's really no downside. Like you just call and say, hey, I want to cancel my credit card. They'll either give you the retention offer. A lot of it's based on how much money you spent that year, you know, how long you've been with them. There's a lot of things. There's like some type of algorithm that they're using to decide, okay, is this customer worth it for us to keep and retain for using that card? So it's definitely worthwhile to ask. Normally what I'll do is if I'm kind of like not using a card for a while, I'll call, get the retention offer or ask about it. And if they don't give it to me, I'll just ask about downgrading it to another card. So I'm not closing that card out.
The chargeback benefit is great. I've used that because I don't normally call for chargeback. So when they won't refund me or it's a real problem and I charge back, I've been a good customer for years. No problem. Give me the money right back. No issue at all, which they wouldn't give me with a debit card.
Right. That's why there's not really like I only use my debit card. I'll take it out of my wallet, go to the ATM, get cash out, and then put it right back. That way there's no chance of it getting stolen or lost. Because if you don't have that, it is a big hassle to get it shipped overseas.
I'm guessing did you roll over from the preferred to the reserve?
Yeah, I still have, I closed down the preferred and just made it I think it's a Chase Unlimited, which is a no fee card. So I had both at one point, but I wasn't using the preferred and I just have the reserve now.
Did you have, because I called about switching over to the reserve.
I didn't roll over, I opened up both. So you can get, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to roll over.
Well, they told me that if you have the preferred for at least 4 years, that you can actually just like do away with the preferred, and you can sign up for the reserve, get the bonus points, and then kind of just you can roll over into the new one.
Right. Yeah, I think that's in like the other part where there is a lot of stuff like that where you can roll it over, but it is always changing. It is always kind of like not constant. Chase has a few weird things. But for me, I've gotten the sign-up bonus for both within a 4-year period. So maybe it's something new that they've done.
If you're starting off going with the Chase cards, because of a bunch of restrictions they have later, start off with Chase because it's harder to get later once you have a few cards.
Right. Yeah, they have, I think it's the 4 cards within 24 months.
5/24.
Yeah, 5 within 24. So basically that means you can't open more than 5 Chase cards within a 24-month period.
Apply, and that's not just Chase, Amex too.
Right.
Any of them.
Did you upgrade your flights at all? Or
Yeah. So the one here I'd upgraded. So book an economy class with money, and then you can upgrade with points. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. You really just have to do like a cost analysis, figure out what the price is of that point, and they're all readily available online. You can just search like cost calculator for whatever points you have, and then it'll showcase like what this cost is. Usually it's around 2 points per mile.
So wait, let me share a trick really quick. You're saying that's absolutely fantastic. When you're at the airport, get like one of those bags of like multi-candy or whatever. It might cost you $6, $8, $10. And then when you're walking in, hand it to the person that you're getting on the airplane with and say, this is for you guys, I want you to share. I just wanted to let you know we appreciate all the work you do. And you get crazy benefits. Like we fly business a lot, so like we don't get upgraded, but they can upgrade you to business, or they'll bring you free alcohol all flight. They will pamper you. They will take care of you for like a $6 bag of candy. It's really worth it. We do it literally on every flight. It's totally worth the $6.
Is there another card you recommend other than because I do have Reserve as well, but
I would look at the Amex Platinum and see. I think those are my top 2 cards right now. Then I would say my third one, if you're going to be staying in hotels or if you have any interest in staying in hotels, is the Hilton. One of the Hilton cards that comes with diamond status.
They just changed that to more diamond.
Really?
Yeah, I just looked the other day. It's kind of disappointed. Hilton's
this whole presentation.
I think Hilton's merged with Marriott.
No, that's SPG. I'm a Marriott guy. He's a Hilton guy.
I'm Hilton because of the diamond.
Do you have a meditate guys?
Free breakfast, man.
Justin, do you have a Marriott?
Yeah, I got crazy stuff, but it's sick. We get lounge, we get suite upgrades.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
The problem with Marriott, the reason I went with Hilton is because you could get their top tier status with a credit card on Marriott and SPG. It's just they'll get you to gold, which is I don't know. You get like a water bottle or something. No, the main thing is like you don't get lounge access and you don't get free breakfast with the gold on Marriott.
I say once you go with one of the hotel ones, whichever one it is, just stick with that one.
Yeah.
Stick with that one, go with them.
Platinum Amex gives you Marriott Gold, and I think Hilton
Right.
Gold. So.
Yeah, because it used to give you SPG and that transferred over to Marriott.
I love either hotels, but they don't have enough.
Yeah.
Worldwide. They're
That's the
nice.
problem. Any other questions?
Are you getting most of these cards like while you're in the States, you able to get them sent over, like say on the
So a lot of times what I'll do is I use my dad. I just send it to him. He sends me a photo. And I think there are services. What's the service you guys use, Justin?
First class mail, but that's becoming worse. Some of the banks are not so hot. I use my mom's address now for some of the stuff.
So if you do have a family member you can trust and send it to them, that's always the best because they can just send you a photo of both sides. And then honestly, a lot of the cards, this is just ones I have here. I have other ones where I just don't have. I just have a photo of it, put in my online, like on my keychain or my LastPass, and then I just use it that way. You activate it and you don't need the physical card. You can also add it to your Apple Pay. And
How do you do that?
Amex, right when you get approved, you can go right to your Apple Pay. So I just started using it.
yeah, so
Right when you apply.
no, I just use my Apple Pay.
But you can use it through your phone.
Yeah.
Europe, it's all over the place.
Yeah,
Great.
so I was in Iceland for like 5 days or something. We didn't take out cash because everyone has Apple Pay. Like, and that way you get the points.
I spent 3 weeks in Norway and never had any cash. I don't even know what it looks like.
So yeah, there's definitely a way. I think there are some services like Earth Class Mail, like additional services where you're able to send your mail there. They'll scan it.
And everything, it's a residency problem. Like they're like, I mean, give me a physical address for your mail. We'll mail your stuff to Earth Class, but we need an actual home for your account.
Okay.
And so we kind of close that. You can also have Google Pay, so if you don't have an Apple phone,
Right.
and all your cards.
Yeah, you can add it to any of those payment.
So you just open up your phone to the credit card stand and open it.
Right.
Swig top 3 cards. For someone just starting off, they need a 3-card pack.
Chase Sapphire Reserve, Amex Platinum, and then like, I guess whatever sort of, if you're looking to stay at hotels, I would go with like whatever brand you like. Try to find the best card in that. Or if you're looking to try to build status on an airline, I would look at that. It really depends on a lot of factors. Like the routes that I live in, American flies very regularly to Miami and then they fly to St. Louis. So I fly that route go home for Christmas or just to fly between Medellin and the US. Because once I get to Miami, I can get almost anywhere. So having like a credit card with that American status or mainly just getting a good sign-up bonus for American points, that's what makes sense for me. So it's going to be different for all of you guys. I would say the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Amex Platinum, and then a third card should be whatever you're going to be utilizing the best in your travel journey or wherever you're flying the most or staying the most.
So hotels would be the best one, right? Because saying the frequent flyer miles that are getting worse and worse, right?
Well, hotels are also they're both diminishing.
But what's a good card for PPC spend?
It's the Chase Inc.
Is the best one.
Or Amex Gold.
Yeah, Amex Gold's good.
And what do they do? They give you 3x?
I think it's 5x.
5 points up to $100,000 a year.
Yeah, and that's not just Facebook. They do Google Ads. I believe they do Amazon PPC, but it's easy to check. Just search for it and make sure that they're doing it.
They're specifically set up for digital advertising platforms, like specifically.
Yeah. So basically, like Mike V was mentioning, if you're using your Amex Gold or the Chase Inc. business card, you're going to get 5x if you put that in your Facebook account or any other.
Oh, I didn't know that. I always just thought people were using general mile programs.
No, they have particular like social
Spend for 5x.
So if you're getting 5 points per dollar spent, and then you're getting a redemption at like 4 or 5 cents, that's huge value.
Right.
So there's some people who are like doing drop shipping or whatever, and they're making $1,000, but they're spending $40,000 and getting 5 times that in points. They're like, all right, I'm happy with that because they just get to travel for free.
I knew affiliates that used to increase their margin dramatically with the cashback program. Right. Because they were spending some crazy amount of profit.
Yeah, I think even on Amazon, you can order from some suppliers with credit card.
If you can't get good award flights, like a 2% or 1.5% cashback might make more sense, but with a modicum of effort, you can get way better redemptions through points. Like so we're talking 4 or 5 cents on an economy flight, you can get 10, 12 cents in some cases.
Yeah, these guys are doing cashback because they already had so many fucking points. I'm like, what am I going to do? Fly every day?
Right. Yeah.
Is this something that's just available to U.S. nationals, or are we kind of talking about our other nationalities here?
The easiest one, the easiest one is in the U.S. Canada's probably number 2.
Oh, it's brutal. What are you talking about?
But there's not really anything else is better. Like Canada, the UK.
We get like 10,000 bonus instead of you guys get 100,000 bonus and stuff. Because I guess our flights are not close to you, but
It's the bonuses that are offered. Sign-up bonuses are way better for Americans.
Like
They
10.
can collect the points, but the bonuses are sweet for us.
it would take me 100 years to spend the same amount of it if I got 10.
It's just US is built on credit.
We're terrible. That's why.
I think I can get my solid
We're very profitable.
Awesome, guys. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.